Hi, Vanessa.
Hey, Wayed.
Welcome to, I almost said my other podcast name. Welcome to Advocate Cast by the Regional Center of Orange County. I'm Wayed Kabir, and this is Vanessa Pulido, HCBS Coordinator. And we're going to talk about Vanessa's wonderful and lovely job today, and then we're going to talk about some of the services that the Regional Center offers through HCBS and what exactly is HCBS and how does it benefit the person served. Thank you for joining me today. It's going to be a fantastic podcast.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, for, choosing me to be your guest speaker for today. I'm excited to really talk about it. I feel like not a lot of people understand what HCBS stands for or what, how it can help families in Orange County, specifically at Regional Center of Orange County. I'm here today. And again, this is Vanessa. I'm the HCBS Coordinator, one of the two. And thank you once again.
Yeah, this is the first episode of the Advocate Cast. The Peer Advocate Cast is we're gonna be talking about all types of programs that the Regional Center offers, and we're gonna interview a bunch of great individuals inside the Regional Center and within the community. So everything person served, because we're all about person served here at the Regional Center of Orange County. So I'm very excited about this groundbreaking podcast.
Yes, I'm excited that we have a podcast going on for Regional Center.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, awesome.
So what got you into your field of helping people with developmental disabilities? What made you passionate about that? What got you going in that direction on your journey?
Yeah, so my journey to working specifically with individuals with developmental disabilities actually happened when I was young. I would say probably around 7 years of age, I became a translator for family, for my family. We had someone with cerebral palsy in our family. And so navigating, that system was very difficult for my family because they didn't understand the language. And obviously when you're in this field of special needs, there's so many acronyms. It just becomes a language of its own. And so I was 7 years old, and I was translating in IEPs and in hospital settings, IHSS.
7 years old, wow.
I mean, truly, I didn't really understand all the time what specifically I was translating, but I was trying my best so that there was no language barrier. And because of that, I felt like, there was such a huge need for someone, with Spanish speaking skills to be in this field. And, every time I noticed that there was no one that looked like us, right? Like there wasn't that culture there, which is huge, right? Like there's a huge need for someone to feel like they can build rapport with someone who not only understands their language, but also understands their culture.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's kind of what sparked the interest, got me passionate about being in this field. And then, also learning about autism during my master's program and going with it,
Right, and you talked about, translating. Now, during those meetings and those, for those families,
right.
When you saw a family like dealing with a lot of emotion and a lot of dealing with a lot of their son or daughter's needs and dealing with a lot of emotion, how did you feel at such a young age, and what thoughts went through your head?
It was very scary at first, just because, doctors, specialists would scare us to say, this child's not going to live past the age of 16, and for our Hispanic culture, we want our loved ones to live as long as possible and to have these experiences with us until, the parent can pass away prior to their child passing away. So that was kind of like the initial thing, just kind of, it was a little overwhelming to hear, about that and knowing the quality of life that this person may have. But with the right resources perhaps this person could live a very fulfilled life.
That is great. That's fantastic. So you were more focused on making sure that they had the right resources and
Correct.
you really cared at a very young age.
Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of like, you know, you're again, my family, I'm first generation Mexican American, and so, you know, the majority of my elder relatives, they immigrated from Mexico, and so, you know, limited English, very little education, and because of that, you know, it was me trying to bridge that gap, because there's always that gap, especially when you don't speak the actual language, or you're not a specialist in the special ed world or in the regional center system, correct?
Right.
And so it was really just trying to bridge the gap, make sure that everyone had what they needed, and that they weren't either, you know, sometimes it's difficult, and I see this, is that sometimes you know, you might not know what you can truly receive as a service.
Right.
And so it's, you know, just trying to educate.
Yeah, for the longest time I didn't, you know, I'm a person who served here at the Regional Center
Right.
of Orange County since I was like 12.
Right.
And for the longest time I didn't know that you guys offered personal assistance.
Correct, yeah.
And that we offered certain programs.
Transportation,
like
you know, and it doesn't have to just be for work. It can also be for your extracurricular activities outside of work, you know, so that you guys can be integrated. That's what we want. We want you guys to be able to live, you know, a life that is as normal as possible. You know, a life that I would have, right? Where it's like, I can have transportation to go to, you know, Knott's Berry Farm, or if I needed to go to work and I needed transportation, I would receive that, or to school, or, you know, whatever it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And talk about you talk a little bit about HCBS and what that stands for, and what is that? To the person that doesn't know what HCBS, we use a lot of acronyms here at the Regional Center. What is HCBS? Yes. What do you do on a daily basis? What is your job duties?
Sure. So HCBS is Home Community-Based Services, and that is a federal rule that came out. It's basically to ensure that any and all services that Regional Center is providing is allowing for individuals to have a quality of care, a quality of service, which is, you know, to be out, having the opportunity to integrate with others in the community, to have a quality of care in their home. And when I'm speaking about in their home, it doesn't personally have to be their parents' home or their apartment, but it can also be the group home that they're living in.
Still their home.
Because it truly is their home. It's not, you know, it's not a place that they go to sleep. No, it turns into their home, and we want to hear that the staff who are assisting them becomes kind of like their second family, you know, knowing that they're being taken care of and well taken care of, right? But also just knowing their rights while they're living there, and that, you know, they receive top-notch care.
And that's beautiful. And so what? So how do you go about making sure that they're receiving that top-notch care?
So we this summer we had a big project for our community services department. Kudos to us. We were out in the community reviewing all of the group homes that we are vendored with. So we had well over 300 homes to review within about 4.5 months. And we were using a checklist that came from the Department of Developmental Services. And so this was something that,
that's from the state.
That's from the state. And so that's, you know, every regional center had to go through this checklist to make sure that, you know, these homes were in compliance. And so that's what we did, is we went out, we made sure that these homes were in compliance. And if there was something that maybe they were lacking in, we provided the technical assistance, and that we followed up to make sure that it was followed through. Or if they were not in compliance, you know, we would have these, you know, meetings with the vendors to correct and to make sure, you know, are you going to meet this? And if not, you know, here here are the next steps.
So how would you get that message across to the vendors in a very caring and very person-centered way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's we would remind them about the HCBS comic series that we had, so that they could review it with their staff if they needed it to kind of simple it down to understand about all of the all the rules that they had to follow.
Yeah.
And if they still needed more, like a little bit more guidance towards it, then that's when I would, explain it to them specifically in their home. So it's kind of like, oh, well, I see in this section of your home, we could maybe improve with XYZ.
Okay.
So that you can meet this final rule. Or letting them know, we, regional centers offering person-centered thinking, training, and we would love to have you come and so you can hear the skills and see how you can implement it so that your home is also person-centered.
Right. What is person-centered thinking? Person-centered thinking is.
All right, you guys. So I am actually a certified person-centered thinking trainer at the Regional Center, one of the many that we have. And Wayed, you are a coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a helper.
You're coaching.
I'm there.
It's fine. You are coaching. Take the credit. With person-centered thinking, it's really just taking us back to simple, just keeping it simple, to reminding us that the person we are, serving is the center, and that we should always be very mindful and keep them involved in the entire process. And when I mean keep them involved is, even the way that we write our reports or we run our meetings is very simple for them to understand. Yeah. Because again, remember we talk about acronyms. I mean, how overwhelming can that be for someone?
Oh yeah. It's you don't know what that stands for.
Exactly, and
especially if English is your second language.
Exactly.
So
Yes. And so, a great example. A great example would just be, when we talk about someone who might have behaviors, quote unquote behaviors, instead of saying they have maladaptive behaviors, well, can you explain what maladaptive behaviors looks like? Is that just that they, maybe they start banging their head because they're feeling frustrated, and maybe instead of using these clinical terms, we use more descriptive words so that anyone who's reading the report can understand what we see in this person, correct?
Right, okay.
Instead of using eloping, maybe we want to use will run away if they're feeling overwhelmed.
More everyday language.
Exactly. So it's really just, making sure that, we use language that anyone can understand. And also, coming up with other ways of holding these meetings so that families and the person served are not, feeling, again, overwhelmed by all these specialists around them, allowing them to lead these meetings if and when they can, right? Yeah. Or if it's maybe not the person served, maybe the family.
You want to feel valued.
Exactly.
With anything, you want to feel valued of your child or the person that you love, care, and making sure that their future is bright.
Right.
And that they have every opportunity to reach their goals.
And that's the ultimate goal, right, is for all of us who are working with this person, for them to reach whatever goals they may have.
Okay.
So,
You've been a supervisor here at the Regional Center as well.
Yeah, so I've had a few roles here at the Regional Center. When I first started, I became a service coordinator. Then after that, I was promoted to supervisor, and I was a supervisor for the Regional Center at both offices here at Central. That's in Santa Ana, and then also at our West office, which is located in the city of Cypress, California. So I've had the experience of working with both, with both offices, with a large number of service coordinators, trying to coach them, trying to make sure that they understand the services that we can provide. A lot of brainstorming. We had plenty of planning team meetings, fair hearings that I have attended. And now I'm in my current role as the HCBS Coordinator, which I am enjoying and feel very grateful for the opportunity.
Now, how does this how does this job, this position, is different from the other positions?
Yeah.
And how do you, what have you learned from the other jobs to help you with this current position?
That's great questions. So, you know, with my other positions, it was a little bit more, you know, I had a team. I had a huge team. Not a huge team, but I had a large team of up to 15 service coordinators.
Wow. Okay.
Where, you know, you kind of start off with your team, so you're trying to coach and you're trying to train as best as possible all practices that we use here at the regional center, and then, you know, you eventually allow for them to do their own type of problem solving out while they're with the families. But definitely providing them a lot of support and guidance when, you know, maybe they're not certain of certain requests that are coming through. Again, providing them that support that's needed. And again, also utilizing a lot of person-centered thinking practices so that they can also implement that while they're out, either in an IEP, it could be an IPP, which is their individualized person plan, or, you know, maybe they're out at the day program and they're, you know, viewing the vendor and maybe seeing certain things that, you know, might need a little bit more of attention. So, you know, that was that part of being a supervisor. Whereas with HCBS, now I'm more on the community services side. So I'm more with vendors rather than with the families. So now with the vendors, it's working with these vendors, again, assisting the vendors, providing guidance to the vendors, you know, talking a lot about person-centered thinking.
Right.
So that, again, they can also start implementing those in their care.
Your experience from the past, working with the families, you can really protect their needs.
Yes.
You remember working with the families directly, and you want to protect their needs still, and you do a fabulous job at that.
Oh, well, thank you.
When you're meeting with all these vendors, because you really know what their needs are at the core.
Yes.
And talk about that core.
Yeah. So, you know, with the vendors right now, what we're seeing is, you know, after COVID, we had a lot of, you know, employees leave. You know, a lot of their staff leave because, you know, COVID happened and all the shutdown and everything that was going on with that. So it's been kind of a difficult journey for a lot of these vendors to then
making sure everybody
hire. Yes, to hire people and to not just hire anyone. It's really truly them trying to find quality.
Right.
Trying to find that staff who would be quality for the care.
You want that long-term connection. You want that. That person that cares.
Exactly, because, you know, it's easy, yes, to hire people, but sometimes these people might be on the job for, you know, a few weeks, maybe a couple of months at most, and you're training them and you're putting all this effort into them, but at the end of the day, they don't have that care or that passion to help these individuals. So that's been kind of like the biggest hurdle right now with everyone in our vendor community is trying to hire the right people to help support them.
And you really can empathize with the vendor and try to, you know, and really empathize with the families. So you really get a lot of, you best know how to help the person served because you can really get to the core of how can I best help. And what are their needs?
And truly, talking about the needs, talking to the family and the vendor about like what are the needs versus the wants.
Right, and making sure those needs are being met on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, and that we document those needs in the IPP.
Now, I remember you telling me that in our past conversations that you were a special ed teacher. Talk about the difference between IEP and IPP.
Okay. So yes, prior to coming to the Regional Center of Orange County, I was teaching special ed. I did resource specialist for K through 6.
Wow.
As a student teacher. Then I went into junior high.
Okay.
7th and 8th. It was just 7th and 8th. And it wasn't resource specialists, it was more of like, we were practicing co-teaching.
Oh.
So I was teaching with other general ed teachers.
Oh, that's great.
Specifically, it was more history that we were teaching and collaborating and using. And back then, it was probably around 2013, 2014 when I was doing that, that this was very new. Like, that was a very new practice of co-teaching. And I was teaching with teachers that were in the field for over 20 years.
Sure.
So, it was learning how to collaborate with them.
Right.
And to also educate them, right, about like, how can we teach these students without having to pull them out, with having them be integrated, with having them be successful, with having them feel successful. That was like my thing. Like, I wanted these students to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, my students would talk to me to say, well, Mr. So-and-so, it doesn't, I can't catch the concept of what he's saying. So really having those, that open door policy with my students so that I could continue to accommodate and, modify the curriculum so that the students could understand the subject and be successful,
right,
and take those tests and feel amazing seeing an A or even a B on, because most of the time in the past, these students would fail and would have to retake the test with assistance from a teacher. But instead of having them retake the test, it was like, no, my students can pass this test on the first attempt. But it's like, but yeah, because, and it was again, collaborating with the gen ed teachers to say, trust me, let me modify the test, let me accommodate the learning environment so that they can be successful. And we saw it. And it was amazing. It was a great year to be there. And, it's one of my fondest memories. It's just seeing those students smile and feel proud of themselves. And we talked a lot about going to college, because a lot of them, I could tell, didn't feel like they would go to college. And it was like, no, there's disability centers on college campuses. There's lots of resources if and when you go either to a 4-year or even to a community college where you can go and you can speak to the disability center and they can provide, notes, they can provide, books and all kinds of technology assistance for them so that they can. The resources are there. It's just a matter of navigating again the system. And so it was just a lot of like, pep talks with them at that young age so that they could continue with that mindset. You start young. I always say, even with my own children, it's kind of like you invest in your children.
What do you think, after working here and after working as a special ed teacher, what do you think what do you think the biggest hurdle is for a person served for them to gain that confidence? You think sometimes, they don't have a support system as vocal?
Yeah, sometimes it's I would say older practices, I still think right now is a lot better. Like we are in a different time where we are more open-minded. We have social media, we have the internet, we have so many things at our fingertip to try to assist, children with special needs or, people with individual, with disabilities and such. But like back before the internet, what did our parents have?
Yeah.
Or if you didn't have a family member affected or, born with a disability, how would you really truly know what autism was?
Right.
I mean, even while I was going to receive my master's, and my master's was emphasized in autism, when I would talk to other people about, what are you majoring in? Or, what are you receiving your master's in? And I would say, special education with the emphasis on autism, they would ask, well, what's autism?
Yeah.
And this wasn't, this was 2011, 2012 when I received my diploma, so it wasn't very long. I mean, it is a long time ago, but that wasn't too long ago, and to see that now, autism is definitely now people are more aware of it. People can understand when someone says, "Well, that person has autism."
You raised awareness. You helped with that awareness, and you're continuing to do that, and that's so beautiful and so uplifting, and so you're giving the families that we serve the tools that they need to have.
Yes, and that's kind of, so then when I came to regional center, then it was kind of, special ed was more education, K through high school or whatever, but then when I came here to the regional center, now I had more resources available to provide to these families, whether they are still in the school system or, they are now graduating the adult transition programs that we have in the school system, and letting them know that, your child doesn't have to go to a day program. There are endless possibilities. So many opportunities, especially here in Orange County, where, your child can go and do an internship program, and work, and hopefully receive full-time employment with benefits, and receive education in what they're working in, transportation, feeling meaningful, right?
That's great.
Versus, it's like, well, you just go to a day program and my child's gonna go draw and color.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But if your child also has potential and other skills,
goals and
yes, and it's kind of like, not only am I speaking, when I was a service coordinator, it was not only me just speaking to the parents. It was also like, we are having your child or your adult child involved.
And I can really tell that means a lot to you.
Yes.
You're talking about a community integration that getting them more involved in what they're passionate about. Your face lights up, so that is great.
I definitely like to see that, whoever it is that we are supporting gets to feel good.
Like you talked about being a supervisor. Did you train your service coordinators to making sure that their person served needs are being met and their passions are being listened to?
Yes. We definitely, there's a specific scenario where maybe the service coordinator wasn't, I would say maybe within their first year of employment, where, they would ask questions about, well, what about this group home, and they're receiving XYZ kind of care. And it was like, all right, well, let's ask questions. Go in there, ask questions, and speak to the person served. Try to see if they're able to communicate maybe concerns that they also might have about, the
show
home.
The person served that you care.
Yes, and
builds that trust.
And it definitely is one thing that I would always emphasize is try to build rapport with the families and with the person served.
Right. When I had my service coordinators, and I love building that trust, and for them to care, it's really fast tracks that trust,
Yes.
I'm like, this is a cool person, and they really care about my future, and they're not just giving me lip service or, being like a robot. We talked a little bit about community integration. We'll talk more about community integration and what do you see now as a HCBS coordinator, and how down the road, what do you see as like hurdles, and how do you think we're overcoming that? Especially after COVID. We talked about that.
So something that I'm seeing now as an HCBS coordinator is definitely seeing all these different programs, whether it's through the city parks or private businesses such as karate centers, dance studios, theaters, music lessons. Everything is just, it's beautiful to see that our community is opening the doors to our individuals that we serve and allowing them the opportunity to be integrated with others that are, neurotypical, and that they can maybe, have friendships, meaningful friendships. And, something that I am also seeing is, even with my children at their swim school and seeing the children that we serve there at the same pool at the same time, it's kind of like, wow, we are funding for this. And before it was, I don't think it wasn't something that was visibly seen, because I feel like not all families had that resource, to take their children to these activities. Yeah, because it's already so expensive as it is, with other things. But now just having, these funds available for their children, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. And hopefully they're also being invited to these birthday parties, I know with my son, when he's playing soccer, he's building friendships with other kids, and, they invite each other to, to birthday parties, and hopefully we see that these little peers are doing the same, right, with these other, individuals that we're serving, so that they also feel included. Because I can't imagine, and now that I've always had some time to reflect and remind myself, what did my school look like? And I don't remember ever seeing a special ed student in my classroom. I remember seeing them on the playground with their aid, but then always segregated.
Yeah. Well, I was in a more, up until 5th grade, I was more in a segregated class. But after that, I just said, I want to be in a amongst the
peers,
everyone else. I feel like I believe in myself, and I believe in my skills. That I was confident enough, and to know that I can make friends and do well within this environment.
Right.
I believed in myself.
And the nice thing is that you were able to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were confident enough to do so. Yeah. Versus, there's a lot of people who might not feel like they can speak up for themselves.
And that's okay, But, it's just, we need to, which we are, I think that's what makes the regional center so beautiful. That we support, we help people gain confidence in what they're passionate about.
Yes.
We try to point them in the direction of what they're passionate about, and try to, try to help them along their journey. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, and for me, it's just like, that's why I love working here and helping, because I've been through the system. I've been through,
firsthand.
The teachers telling me that I couldn't make it in college. Here I am. I have a master's degree, so and I'm here to help the person served. And I think there's so many. If I can make somebody's journey a little bit easier, that's younger than me, I've done my job in my life. So
absolutely.
That's a beautiful journey that I remind myself every day, just like you do, of why we're here.
We're here. Yes. Yeah. There's a purpose. There's a purpose for you, and there's a purpose for myself. And, like you said, hopefully we can fulfill it.
Yeah. One last question.
Yeah.
What, if you could pick one thing that you want a family or a person served to learn from this podcast, what would that be?
That would be to, definitely ask questions. Don't be afraid. Always speak to your service coordinator. And if for whatever reason it's not a good match, you can always request for another service coordinator. There is no law that you can only have one service coordinator. If it's just not a good match, request for a new one, so that you can build that rapport and you can have those open conversations. Because really, truly, having these open conversations is what opens doors for services for the people that we're serving, and for themselves, so that again they can live a fulfilled life.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for joining me today, and I hope our individuals who are listening to this podcast and watching this podcast gain a lot of great great knowledge of what the regional center is about and what we offer
Yes,
to
yes.
our wonderful community.
And hopefully you invite me back to co-host.
Of course. Oh yeah, Vanessa's going to be my co-host. So to my supervisor, lovely supervisor, wonderful supervisor Arturo, Vanessa's going to be my co-host moving forward. So,
Moving forward, we're a team.
Yeah, we're a team. We are a team in the community.
Yes, we are.
And the community sector as well.
Yes. All right. Well, it was great. Thank you for having me. And I hope everyone has a lovely day, a lovely year, 2025.
Yeah, this was the first episode
Yes.
of the Regional Center of Orange County Advocate Cast. It'll be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So check us out. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.